Good evening. This is February 25th. It's 2025. We are just a hair past 7 p.m. Appreciate everybody being here and everybody else watching us. This is the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for the city of Hendersonville, Tennessee. We're going to begin this meeting as we begin most of our meetings. In fact, all the meetings since I've been mayor, that's for sure. And that's with a prayer and the pledge. And providing our prayer tonight for us is Joshua Strader. Joshua is the senior pastor at Christ Methodist Church. Joshua, you've been here for a little while. We appreciate what you and what your church does for the community. And we appreciate you being here tonight to lead us in prayer.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Father in heaven, what a beautiful day you've blessed us to enjoy today. We need only to look to your creation to be reminded of your magnificence, your glory, and the special care that you demonstrate for us in so many ways. Thank you for creating such a beautiful world for us to live in and a beautiful community to belong to. We give you thanks for this day, this session, and the opportunity we have to gather and serve our community. Lord, we lift up our police force, those with a special calling to protect and serve our community. We ask, in spite of all the risks that they take for our well-being, that, Lord, you would watch over them and their loved ones. And, Lord, to you, we also lift this council, our aldermen, and Mayor Clary. Thank you for all of our leaders, elected and volunteer. We know that the mantle of leadership is a hard one to bear in our day and time, when it seems there is so much disagreement and division and a harsh spirit of criticism against one another. Help us to honor you by praying for our leaders, acknowledging that most are unaware of the pressures that they and their families uniquely face. We pray for their peace, their protection. May you grant them wisdom in their deliberations, freedom from distraction, and perseverance in their service, that they may fulfill the responsibilities that you've entrusted to them with a full and joyful spirit. Bless this community, this council session, and our work together for the benefit of our neighbors and the glory of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Joshua. Again, that's Joshua Strader with Christ Methodist Church. Thank you so much. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. I'm going to entertain a motion. We accept the agenda that was provided to you in your packet. We have a motion from Alderman Bergdorf and a second from Alderman Garza. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have a presentation, and this is about our citywide cleaning day from Kathy Pascal. Kathy, appreciate you being here. Usually, you're handing out gift cards and proclamations, but this is some pretty good information, so appreciate you doing this.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Alderman. It's good to be here tonight. I want to just give you a little bit of information on some of the upcoming activities of beautiful Hendersonville. Governor Lee has declared March as Litter Awareness Month. So in preparing for our big event that we're going to be doing, beautiful Hendersonville will be going into the area public and private elementary schools to speak to the 3rd and 4th graders about litter. And we're going to tell them what it is and what it does and how they can help prevent it and how they can help clean it up. And then we will provide an opportunity for them to come out with their families and the staff and the citizens to clean up trash all together. And that will be on March the 29th. Beautiful Hendersonville is proud to partner with Sumner County Health Department and Committee that will be hosting a county-wide cleanup. There will be 5 cities in the county that will be hosting neighborhood cleanups. And beautiful Hendersonville will host the cleanup here. We will do the sign-ins at City Hall. There will be 3 slots that you can sign up for. You can go to the QR code there. We will start early at 7. There will be 7 to 9, 8 to 10, and then 9 to 11. You can sign up for all of those slots. You can sign up for one of the slots. You can come and stay as long as you want or leave, when you need to. But we are really proud to be partnering with them and do this again for the community. So we hope to see you all there. Please go to the QR code and sign up, okay? So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Appreciate that. I'm going to entertain a motion that we approve the minutes from our last meeting, which was February 11th, 2025. We have a motion from Alderman Sassy and a second from Alderman Ward. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. And we have one abstention from Alderman Garza. Thank you. And Alderman Garten. So that passes with majority vote. Citizen comments? This is where we are, right? Okay. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address. Public comment shall be limited to 5 minutes per person, which time is not transferable to other speakers. All comments are to be directed to the presiding officer, that's me, not to aldermen, city staff, or other members of the public. Comments must address issues, not individuals or personalities. Personal attacks shall not be tolerated. Comments may support or oppose particular issues or measures, but the motives of those with differing views shall not be questioned or attacked. Malicious comments will not be allowed. Speeches for or against particular candidates running for office shall not be allowed. Ginger Detlefson. I always mispronounce that, Ginger. I'm sorry.
You pronounced it correctly.
Detlefson. Okay.
Mayor Clary, aldermen, and fellow citizens, thank you for allowing me to speak. I am Ginger Detlefson, and I represent the Hendersonville Citizens Police, all of these blue shirts that you see here. Our mission is to do whatever we can to help our police officers. We pray for them. We get them equipment that the city does not provide. Whatever we can do is our mission. I come before you as a concerned citizen of this community, deeply invested in the well-being and future of those who serve us in our most vulnerable moments, the men and women in blue, our beloved police officers. Let's address that. Now I want to be clear. I have the utmost respect for firefighters. In fact, our son, Lieutenant Matt Detlefson, is a White House firefighter. They perform courageous and vital work, but there are major differences between these two professions that must be considered, and we must consider them when determining pay. My husband, Jim, also known as Skull, is a retired police officer with 45 years of service. Our officers are on the front lines, safeguarding our neighborhoods, responding to crimes in progress, protecting victims of violence, handling dangerous situations involving armed suspects, stolen vehicles, and dangerous felons. They are the reason you and I can sleep peacefully at night. Police officers often work in high-stress, split-second life or death situations. Have you done a ride-along with them? You should do that. They face the risk of violence, injury, and even death each time they leave their families and put on their uniforms. But beyond the physical dangers, our police officers bear the weight of an immense responsibility. They must uphold the law, make split-second decisions under pressure, and bear the emotional toil of dealing with crime, violence, and tragedy on a daily basis. Unlike firefighters, they do not have the luxury of knowing when danger is coming or when it will diminish. Every call the police respond to has the potential to change their lives and the lives of their families and the lives of the citizens they serve forever. Now let's talk about firefighters. Yes, they face physical risk. However, their work, while absolutely necessary, does not carry the same level of unpredictable, consistent danger that police officers face daily. For instance, an officer, while leaving HPD, was confronted by a man with a knife, ready to kill the first officer he saw that day. Firefighters are trained to confront fires and disasters, events that, while destructive, are usually identifiable and can be prepared for. We must recognize these distinctions when evaluating pay. Police officers put their lives at risk in a way that is far more unpredictable and potentially dangerous, deadly, than the work of the firefighters. The BLS, Bureau of Labor and Statistics, show that in May of 2019, national salary data showed an average officer wage of $67,600, with most wages ranging from $36,960 to $105,000. The BLS data listed a lower $54,650 average fighter fire salary in the U.S., with most making between $25,000 and $90,000. This proves that there is no such thing as pay parity between the police and the fire nationwide. It is always different and should be. Police officers should be paid more than firefighters because their work demands more in terms of risk, responsibility, and emotional toil. Our officers deserve our support, and they deserve to be compensated fairly for the vital role they play in keeping us safe all day and all night. Thank you for your time. Please be fair to our police officers.
Ginger, thank you. Next, we have Tim Hall, Calumet Court.
First of all, I want to say thank you for allowing me to be here to speak tonight. I want to thank y'all for that. I want to thank these men and women, first responders, all of them. They do an astounding job, more than you could ever imagine. They go through more than you could think, police and fire. I want to also, if it's okay, Mayor, I want to extend my family's condolences to the fire department for Don. Reason being, I was not able to make that service. So my condolences to the fire department. Y'all lost a really good man. All right. I want to point out a few things. I was with this department for over 13 years. This department treated me good. Me and my family went through a lot, and we had to give up a lot to be here. If it wasn't for the support of my family and the men and women back here in blue, I don't know how long I would have been able to do it. But I had the fortunate time to be able to work for them and work with them. Chief Mickey Miller gave me that opportunity, and I appreciate that every day. But I also would like to point out that Fires recently got a new truck. It was easy for them to fill 4 new spots. When I first came on to Hendersonville Police Department, and some of y'all, I don't recognize your faces, but I want you to understand something. To get a job here, there was 100+ people trying out for 3 spots. I don't know if any of y'all know that. 100+ candidates for 3 spots in this department. It is my understanding that right now we're about 20 people down, and I say we because I still feel like I'm a part of that family. I keep in touch with them, they keep in touch with me, and I love every one of those guys till the very end. But when we have tryouts once, twice, 3 times a month, however many it is at this point, you get maybe 5 people showing up for 20 spots. The reason why I left was for my pay. The reason why I left was for my benefits. Because being here cost me way too much to continue to work here when I have other things that I need to do. As I get older, as all of us are getting older, our expenses go up. Our health care goes up. And it's getting to the point where some people can't afford to pay the health care. If you go look at Gallatin, for the first time since I've lived in Middle Tennessee, Gallatin at this point, and if you don't believe me, y'all can do it yourself, they're fully staffed. And they're getting ready to ask for 10 more officers. Gallatin's never been 10 people, never had a full staff. They've always been struggling to do what we're doing right now. You have officers with lots of experience, several years of experience, leaving, going to county, going to other jobs. You look at what an officer has to pay for a month for health insurance, $800. That's crazy. Go to county, they're paying $400. Why is that? What is the difference? Can you figure that out? You want to know why they're leaving? That's why they're leaving. I appreciate what the fire department does, but at the point right now that we're at, you're about to lose one of your most prized possessions in this city, and it's the people who help protect this city day in and day out. I've been there. I've done it with them day in and day out. I've had Father Jones in a hospital with me, with my child. It's a family. You're going to have to figure out a way to pay these officers to stay. Because if I can leave here and go make the same money I'm making after being here 13 years and have room to grow somewhere else, there's a problem. They can go to THP. They're leaving for THP. They're leaving for county. You have got a lot of young guys that are coming into this department. And when I say young, I mean young. We're talking early 20s, mid 20s. When you have guys that have the years of experience, life experiences. I came into this when I was 30 and all I had was life experiences. And I learned from the older gentlemen. But I'm going to tell you right now, at some point when all these older gentlemen are gone, you're going to have nothing but a bunch of young officers, and nobody's going to be here to teach them on the road. The academy is one thing, but these streets are something different because we're catching everything from Gallatin and Metro.
Tim, 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that the hemorrhaging has to stop. The hemorrhaging of the police department has to stop, and you've got to find a way to get these guys paid. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Kimberly Overton, Glen Oak Court West.
Thank you, Mayor Clary. Good evening, Aldermen. Kimberly Overton, 104 Glen Oak Court West. I'm here tonight to reaffirm my full support for the salary increases proposed for the Hendersonville Police Department. Competitive pay is essential for recruitment, retention, and morale. However, we must not leave our firefighters behind in the process. I want to bring attention to Ordinance 2004-24, which clearly states that similarly classed positions within the city are to have the same rates of compensation. The stark contrast in the proposed cost of living adjustments, where firefighters are slated to receive only a 1% increase, while police officers receive anywhere from 3.5 to 11%, raises concerns about whether this ordinance is being properly considered. This imbalance has caused frustration not only among our first responders, but also among the citizens who support them. We should never allow for policies that pit our public safety professionals against one another. A divide between police and fire is not only detrimental to morale, but also counterproductive to fostering a strong, united public safety force. I've heard some in the community say that the police deserve a raise because the fire department has received new stations and equipment. But let's be clear, essential equipment and infrastructure is not a perk. It's a necessity. This allows our first responders to do their job safely and efficiently, but it doesn't put food on their tables. We must stop comparing capital improvements to wages. Our firefighters need both, just as our police officers do. Beyond salary, I want to emphasize the urgent need to fund the bridge retirement program for both police and fire personnel. The reality is that first responders experience higher rates of physical injury, emotional trauma, and occupational exposures that shorten their life expectancy. After decades of answering emergency calls, running into burning buildings, performing life-saving medical interventions, and facing dangers that most of us will never encounter, they deserve the chance to step away and spend meaningful time with their families. How many birthdays have been missed? How many Christmas mornings have been cut short? These are the sacrifices they have willingly made for all of us. When their bodies can no longer endure the physical toll, or when the mental and emotional weight becomes too much to bear, they should have the opportunity to retire with dignity and enjoy time with their spouses, their children, and their grandchildren. They have given so much to this city, and they have the right, and we should be able to ensure that they have time left to enjoy the lives that they have worked so hard to protect. Our firefighters have been working to get this program implemented for more than a decade, yet it remains unfunded. If a salary increase is not possible at this time, funding the bridge program would be a reasonable resolution to this disparity. It would provide firefighters with much-needed pathway to retirement security, recognizing the sacrifices they make for our community. As I mentioned at the last meeting, I very much dislike when someone identifies a problem but offers no solution. So I wanted to, again, present a potential solution for funding the bridge program. A practical way to do this would be to utilize the salaries already budgeted for vacant first responder positions, because we know we're not going to fill them all. Instead of allowing this money to be returned to the general fund, I would propose that these dollars that have already been allocated for public safety personnel be reinvested into the program that will directly benefit the men and women who serve our community. By repurposing these unused funds, we can take a significant step toward ensuring financial security for our first responders without creating additional strain on the budget. To ensure transparency and informed decision-making, I propose that an educational workshop be offered to all first responders to gain a thorough understanding of the Bridge program and what it has to offer. This would allow them to make an informed decision about whether they want to move forward with implementing it. Following the workshop, I suggest conducting a silent vote among the first responders to determine their collective preference. This approach ensures that those directly impacted have a voice in shaping their future decisions and benefits, and that these are made with full awareness of the program's implications. We must stand behind all of our public safety personnel equally. Supporting one group while neglecting the other creates unnecessary division and sends the wrong message about how we value their service. I urge this board to take these concerns seriously and ensure that all first responders receive fair and equitable treatment, both in their pay and in the benefits that they receive. And to be frank, Hendersonville needs to do better when it comes to prioritizing our first responders. The stark contrast between our city's salaries and those of surrounding agencies is alarming.
Kimberly, 30 seconds.
Wilson County EMS is currently hiring paramedics at a starting salary of $73,000, while Hendersonville Fire Department paramedics start at $58,000. How can we expect to recruit and retain the best first responders when they can drive just a few miles down the road and make nearly $20,000 more per year? We are losing experienced, highly trained professionals to surrounding cities because we are not staying competitive. If we truly value the men and women who put their lives on the line for this community, then we need to back that up with real, tangible action, not just empty words of appreciation.
Kimberly, thank you. Thank you. Next person I've never addressed by his first name. I always thought his first name was Chief. Mickey Miller, Baker Road, Goodlettsville.
Good evening. My name is Mickey Miller. I live at 1870 Baker Road in Goodlettsville. But I'm here because I spent close to 14 years as chief of police here. And I'm very concerned that we're losing so many police officers, and everything I'm hearing from these officers is the salary. People don't want to compare us to Metro or to the Highway Patrol, but I'm telling you, we have to. In the last 2 years, the competition for law enforcement officers, if you want the best of the best here, you're going to have to pay the same salary as the State Highway Patrol, Metro, Portland, wherever. And if we don't, we're not going to fill those vacancies. I spent most of that time trying to build this department up, and we never got to the magic number of 150, but we got to 139. And I hate to see us losing that. Police officers, I've done this for 47 years. And police officers, every time they stop a car, every time they answer a burglar alarm call at a building, or every time they go to a house talk to an officer, they may not come back. And it happens more and more today than we've ever seen that. And that's why it's very critical to maintain a good number of officers where it's officer safety is what it amounts to. You've got to have enough officers out there to answer these calls and perform backup. And right now we do not. And I'm very concerned about that. That's really all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Kevin O'Hara, Irvin Drive.
My name's Kevin O'Hara, 116 East Irvin Drive. Mayor Clary, Hendersonville Alderwomen and men, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I moved my family to Hendersonville, Ward 4, a little over 42 years ago from Syracuse, New York. 51 years ago, I was released from my time at active duty in the Navy, and at that time, I went straight into the Syracuse Police Department as a police officer. I was also soon to be engaged to my wife, now of 49 years, and making plans for a home and children. My starting salary with the Syracuse Police Department in 1974 was $10,500. However, as time went on, prior to my getting married, I began to realize that that salary wasn't going to cover costs of a home, vehicles, utilities, and college loans for two people. at $10,500 wasn't going to go very far. I began to look around, and I found that I could easily double that salary, plus be home more often, be safer, and raise a family easier. And I resigned from the Syracuse Police Department reluctantly because I really wanted to be a police officer, but I could not afford it and have a family at the same time. I see this same scenario happening right now in our city with our police officers. I know how costly it is to hire, train, equip, maintain just one officer. And if one officer leaves and we lose that one officer, how it impacts and upsets the whole process, and you have to start all over again to fill the empty position. It's not an easy task, and it's not easy to do. I'm asking that you all please seriously consider a vote for the pay raises that our men and women of the Hendersonville Police Department need and deserve. Would any of you now currently accept a police officer position in Hendersonville for $53,852 a year, knowing you're in for long hours, probably nights to begin with, missing some very important family holidays, walking into dangerous situations and laying your life on the line every day, every minute of the day? It takes a special breed of person. Please, let's reward these special people with the pay raise they deserve and that they have earned, keeping our city safe and secure. Thank you.
Kevin, thank you. Dustin Jones, Cranwell Drive.
Good evening, Mayor, Board. My name is Dustin Jones. I live at 166 Cranwell Drive. I've lived there my whole life on that street, not the same house, but so I've typed what I plan to say tonight because I'm not much of a public speaker. So while I may be reading this, know that what I have to say is from the heart. I'm here tonight to show my support for my previous co-workers and friends at the police department and speak against some of the woefully out-of-touch statements that were made at the January 28th Finance Committee meeting regarding a pay raise for police officers that is desperately needed. As Alderman Robertson said that night, it is an emergency. I began working for the city in Public Works as part of a senior project at the high school, and I was gracious enough to be extended a job after that senior project ended. I continued working there through college in the summers, and if I came home on breaks. In 2012, I started working at the police department as a full-time police officer, and I worked there full-time until 2018 when I left and went to work for Professional Traffic Control Services, which is our family business. I'm the HR manager there. This brief history is what I would call being transient in the workforce. As I grew and changed, so did my career choices. The only logical reason a seasoned employee might give up job longevity is because the pay and benefits is more attractive somewhere else. As an HR manager, seeing an employee move from job to job to job is not a quality I would deem as desirable. I also heard a comment that someone felt they didn't feel they could give one group of employees a raise without giving the others, those groups being the police department and the fire department. The issue is the police officer pay is disparaging below comparable departments in this area. This isn't about who or what department we as citizens value more. This is about bringing up these officers to a wage that is comparable to others in the area. When we get everybody on an even playing field, then that is the time to talk about raises across the board for first responders. The fact is, we have seasoned police officers leaving this department because neighboring agencies are paying officers more to do the exact same job. If that sounds normal and okay to you, let me be one of the many people to tell you that it is not. That type of thinking is not a fiscally responsible policy for this city. The city is having to pay on repeat for training costs, and that money should be going towards bringing officers in to the department, not skating by with just enough personnel. I have a hard time seeing how anyone who ran their campaign platform on supporting public safety and our first responders can in good conscience be against this immediate raise for police officers. Thank you very much.
Dustin, thank you. Matthew Sigmund, West Main Street.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Sigmund, 242 West Main Street, and thank you for your time today. I'm the president of Hendersonville Fraternal Order Police Lodge 63, and I stand before you to speak about a critical issue facing our community, the compensation and retention of our police officers here in Hendersonville. As many of you know, our law enforcement personnel are our first line of defense. We're risking our lives and working tirelessly to keep our city safe and secure. But right now, that line of defense is weakening. We are losing dedicated, trained officers, supervisors, and leaders to neighboring agencies that are offering better pay, benefits, and retirement. Agencies comparable to the city of Hendersonville are paying more and offering better benefits than we are per multiple pay studies. As a result, we are losing some of our best officers, those who have been trained and invested in by the city of Hendersonville and the Hendersonville Police Department. These officers are moving on to agencies where they can better provide for their families, which our current pay structure simply cannot. It's not a matter of just dollars and cents. This is about keeping our city safe and maintaining the high level of service that our citizens get, expect, and deserve. HPD is known for their remarkable response times and solve rates, swiftly handling numerous life-saving calls. However, with fewer officers, these critical calls risk becoming deadly. Officers applying tourniquets during potentially deadly vehicle crashes, performing CPR when seconds count to respond, packing bullet wounds when seconds count, and relentlessly pursuing dangerous, deadly criminals out of our city. While other agencies might take weeks, even months to recover stolen vehicles, solve burglaries, and crimes against persons, Hendersonville police often do so within days, if not hours. These life-saving officers, supervisors, and detectives are contemplating leaving this city due to inadequate pay, directly impacting the safety and well-being of your families. If we continue losing officers, Hendersonville will suffer greatly. The response times where critical seconds count will rise, solve rates will fall, and crime will go unchecked, impacting all of our families. To avoid this, we need competitive pay, not well below average pay, like we currently have. Affordable insurance, insurance when you retire, and retirement plans like the Bridge program. The Hendersonville Police Department is not facing these challenges alone. Our fire department stands alongside us, recognizing the vital importance and ensuring fair and competitive compensation for police and fire. Together, HPD and HFD form a powerful public safety team, uniting our efforts to keep us not only a leader in Sumner County, but a premier public safety agency in Middle Tennessee. HPD is facing significant challenge right now, and HFD is here tonight advocating with us to help stop that bleed. FD supports us in acknowledging the importance of equitable and competitive compensation for police officers and firefighters compared to their respectable agencies alike. To keep this unified team strong, we must invest in our police officers, ensuring they are compensated at a level that is competitive with surrounding agencies. This will allow them to continue their work with the same dedication and passion they have shown for years. We're asking for the support of the board to take action now to ensure that Hendersonville remains a safe, secure, and thriving city. By raising police officer pay to become competitive with other law enforcement agencies, we are investing in the safety and future of our city. If we do not take action now, the consequences could be dire. Burnout will be astronomical and mistakes will increase in a profession where you must make split-second life and death decisions. The men and women of the Hendersonville Police Department are some of the most skilled and dedicated officers you will find in the country. Agencies all over the country have praised HPD in their casework. We must ensure that they stay here, serving our community and protecting the citizens of Hendersonville. We're not asking to be the highest paid officers in America. We're not asking for handouts or special treatment. We're simply asking to be competitive with the agencies that surround us and the agencies we're losing officers to. We are the most skilled, trained officers in this county, and we're asking for the respect and compensation that comes with that. For years, we were the highest paid officers in Sumner County because we earned it. We're the ones who led the charge, who put in the blood, sweat, and tears to protect this community, and it's time for us to get back to that place. Thank you for your time and attention. I'm confident that together we can make sure Hendersonville continues to be a safe, thriving community for all.
Matthew, thank you. Next, we've got Matt Elliott, Benita Parkway.
Good evening, Mayor, Aldermen, and members of the community. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Matt Elliott, 179 Benita Parkway. speaking tonight on behalf of the Hendersonville Firefighters Association. Through responsible fiscal management and sound economic decisions, our city is both growing and thriving. The PIP Fund has opened up opportunities for Hendersonville to keep pace with large population growth that we've seen. Record paving initiatives, traffic flow improvements, and public safety equipment needs have all been addressed because of this well-constructed resolution. Fiscal responsibility, saving, and investing have brought Hendersonville into a strong and stable economic position. Inflationary pressures have increased greatly over the past 4 years. This has financially impacted hardworking employees across all departments in our city. Private sector employment offerings such as job portability, better work-life balance, and flexibility of work environment and schedule have pulled people away from public sector employment in the recent years. The COVID pandemic greatly enhanced this dynamic and was particularly impactful on public safety employment. A 2022 report published by the National Center for Health Statistics found that police and firefighters were among the highest death rates for employees across the nation, at 60.3 per 100,000 workers. That was twice as high as the 20.8 per 100,000 for overall workers. All of these factors have negatively impacted retention and recruitment of public safety employees. Mental health has also finally become a recognized issue in public safety employment. Exposure to trauma and work that includes life-threatening situations truly does affect one's mental health. PTSD is a real condition, it is cumulative, and it deserves our attention and respect. Research by the National Institute of Health found that police officers experiencing an average of 3.5 traumatic events for each 6 months that they serve. In a 30-year career, that adds up to over 200% more traumatic experiences than the average person will have in their lifetime. The risk of developing PTSD or other similar mental health conditions is 25.6 times higher for public safety personnel than the general public. Firefighters are subject to these stressors as well. In 2017, the International Association of Firefighters opened their Center for Excellence and behavioral health treatment and recovery specifically to assist firefighters struggling with mental health and addiction problems. And in 2023, the Tennessee General Assembly passed the PTSD presumption bill, which allows firefighters to access workers' comp benefits if diagnosed with PTSD. Trauma is finally being recognized as a hazard in public safety work. Economic pressures, private sector job flexibility, a work-life balance perspective brought on by the pandemic, and mental health challenges have all contributed to a decline in retention and recruitment of public safety employees. Recent Hendersonville pay studies have shown a deficit in salaries for our brothers in blue. And this 2023 pay study was actually somewhat off target, with many surrounding public safety departments undertaking significant increases right after this pay study was conducted. Pay is likely one of the factors affecting retention and recruitment. But competitive wages, effective benefits, and access to solid retirement plans are not just about retention and recruitment. They are about recognition and respect that build morale. And that morale sustains the high level of service that residents in Hendersonville have come to expect and deserve. Those are truths for all departments in the city. Thank you very much.
Matt, thank you. Alvin Burt, Bay Drive.
Thank you, Mayor and Aldermen. I'm Alvin Burt, B-U-R-T, 149 Bay Drive, Aldermanic District 2. You've heard a lot of facts and figures tonight, and a lot of reasons why we need the police raise. I want to share with you now a personal experience. About 15 to 20 years ago, when Judy and I came home from church on a Sunday morning, there was a note stuck on our front door. Police had responded to our alarm, which went off. We're assuming the door was not latched properly or something of that sort, because in the note they explained that the alarm went off. They did a perimeter search. They searched the house. Both dogs were inside, and I'm sure, as anybody that knows our dogs, they were welcomed by our dogs. So I'm assuming this was a false alarm. But on the note was also the time. And on my cell phone was the time that the alarm went off. The response time was astounding. I couldn't have asked for better response time. And we can rest assured after that should the alarm go off in the middle of the night, we would get a similar response time. But this was back when we were interviewing 100 people for 3 spots on the police department force. Today, the department is hemorrhaging police officers. We need to keep these men in blue, especially the experienced ones. We can only do that through the pay increases. I doubt very much with the growth that this county and this department, excuse me, that Hendersonville has achieved over these past 15 to 20 years, that the response time with a police department that has open vacancies that it cannot fill would be anywhere near what it was 15 to 20 years ago. When your alarm goes off at night, think about it. How long is it going to be before you have a response? It could be critical. If that response is fast enough, I don't have to have my gun out. Thank you.
Mr. Burt, thank you. Chris Gonzalez, Ruland Circle.
Chris Gonzalez, 120 Ruland Circle, Mayor Clary, Board, and everyone here tonight. I'm thankful to all of you for your dedication to the city and the work that you do. I'm honored to have served the citizens of this city, my neighbors, my friends, alongside my brothers as a firefighter for 16 years. I was a captain at Firehouse 3 when I left a few years ago. I'm here tonight in support of the police and fire departments. Last meeting, I spoke of the risk and stressors of public safety positions and how we as a community can help those who help us in our time of need by supporting them and carefully considering the requests of these personnel. Tonight, I would like to address a proposed ordinance and unbalanced increase in pay for police and consideration of fire and the optics resulting from such and the unintended consequences that might follow. Now, a lot of talk has been mentioned about losing police officers. Same thing's happening in the fire department. Check the numbers, it's there. Many before it's their time to go. I'm not talking about like retirees, like 18, 16, 13, 12-year guys. And while there's a number that it takes to train and equip these new firefighters, the real cost is the unquantifiable amount of experience that you're losing when these people leave before it's their time. Just like on police, same things happen with fire. When this experience leaves and you have a new person come in, it takes time to train them up to a basic level of performance. There's a broad scope of responsibilities that everybody's tasked with. And so that time that you take to get them up to that basic level of performance is time that you could be spent with your experienced people on more specialized training, providing a better level of protection to the citizens. So that's across the board, blue and right side. So please, I believe that, I hear that with police, but it's absolutely happening with fire too. Police and fire work side by side on many calls: motor vehicle accidents, domestic disputes, any calls of a violent nature, etc. Most of these calls have an elevated level of risk to the responders and everybody within the vicinity. These risks come in the form of other motorists filming a car crash while they're driving by, not paying attention to the scene, or those that are working it, individuals that may be under the influence, individuals acting out in violent nature, And great steps are taken to reduce these risks, but they cannot be completely eliminated. And that's fine. As responders, we have all assumed a certain level of risk so that we can help others in their time of need. That's the job, that's what we all signed up for. In my 16 years, I trained with and have worked many calls alongside my brothers and sisters in blue and had a wide range of results from those experiences. I will tell you that I felt complete trust when I stepped onto the scene with experienced officers like Folsom, Freudenthal, Getchell. I would receive a solid report. Weapons have all been accounted for. This is a disposition of what's going on with the scene. We felt safe. We could provide good patient care because my crew and I knew that PD had our back, and that trust was there. It was solid. I have also been on the other end of the spectrum and had calls where it was a little bit more sketchy. It was a violent call, gunshot wound. Scene wasn't quite cleared yet. We got the all clear to come in. Family member comes out with a loaded AR to give it to police. We're not worried about patient care right there. We're worried about the safety of our scene, our crew. So those two different calls, two very different levels of trust that's happening right there, and that affects patient care. That is directly impacting the citizens of our city. So when you create a culture of division between your two departments, you reduce the trust. It's not good for trust. A culture of division between police and fire is not good for the people who live, work, and play here. It's not good for you and your families. When you create a culture of cohesion, it starts at the top with you. When you make decisions which create that culture of cohesion, it's decimated down through the department heads and down to the rank and file who are providing care to the citizens of Hendersonville. The trust starts with things such as cross-training together, police officers going to eat dinner at the fire stations in their zone, by understanding the perspectives of each other so that when they step onto the scenes, there's a familiar face and a level of trust that has already been established. This ordinance does not foster that culture. It fosters a culture of we'll get ours
Chris,
and
30 seconds.
And we'll get you and you get yours. Division, separation. It's not good for the community. The calls that I described where PD and fire work together are higher risk but also higher frequency. So there's a decent amount of practice that happens to stay fresh on those calls. The high-risk, low-frequency calls, such as active shooter, train derailment, hazmat, et cetera, national news level calls, those are the ones where you really need to have police and fire and a strong level of trust working together.
Chris, thank you. Appreciate that. Next, we got Charlena Allmiller, Ruland Circle.
Hi, I'm Charlena Allmiller, and I live at 143 Ruland Circle, Hendersonville, Tennessee. I did just want to say I support competitive pay with neighboring communities. I recommend offering the same as local police forces that are in our Middle Tennessee. If you offer more, then I promise you they will offer more because they'll lose people, and then we'll be in a bidding war. If we offer the same and then let our work environment, our benefits, our overtime, our scheduling, be the reason that we attract police officers and retain them, then we can get back to the robust police department that we had before, and before the inflation and before all these things have happened. But I would like to say the argument that police should get more than fire because of national salaries ignores our local community's needs. Hendersonville cannot have public safety. It has come to expect without both high quality of fire and police. Locally, our fire and rescue is there when it floods, which has recently happened, when there is water and search rescue needed, when there's a deadly car accident, which has also recently happened, or when there's a fire. I did not actually realize how much our fire did until probably about a year ago whenever I started looking into everything. We rely a lot on our fire department. I regularly monitor government, and with this hobby, I recently made a conspiracy board on a podcast that makes my face and name like a wanted picture to people who probably don't like what I have to say. I say this because I recognize I may need police care at any given time more than the average citizen. But even with my extra risk, I also believe that I will have equal risk of being in a deadly accident, or in need of fire and rescue services for my family. The same problems that exist for police today exist for fire, and they will only be exacerbated if you only look at police. The turnover and related costs, the loss of experience, the lower pay with neighboring fire departments or even non-fire careers. You are the tone at the top. Public safety cannot exist without both police and fire in Hendersonville, and I would hope that you would start acting like that. Thank you.
Shirley, thank you. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda, which has one item that's receive and file the infrastructure resiliency plan. You've got that in your packet. We do have Jesse here. I'm not sure if Sarah is with us, but if y'all have any questions, if you want to hear some specifics of that, let me know. Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay, next item on the agenda is first reading of ordinance 2025-02. This is an ordinance amending budget ordinance 2024-08 to reflect mid-year budget adjustments to the city's 2025 fiscal year budget. I need a motion, please. We have a motion from Alderman Garza, a second from Alderman Goodwin. Alderman Skidmore.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. One of these types of issues, it's unfortunate we get to see all each other like this all the, tonight, and except in the grocery stores or Glenbrook or something like that, at some of our department stores that we see. But I'm glad to see both our fire department and the police department here this evening. I want to let you know something that I normally don't do this, because a lot of times I'll get up here and kind of joke and be jovial to the board members, to ease the heat in the room sometimes, because we all get vocal up here, and I know I get passionate about a lot of issues within the city of Hendersonville, because I've lived here most of my life, and I love Hendersonville just like you guys do. You wouldn't be working for the city if you didn't, and you do such a fantastic job. So I'm pretty serious about this tonight, and I appreciate the mayor calling upon me to do this. I've gone through over the years on the board of mayor and aldermen since about 1986, believe it or not. That's how some of these folks, I look out in the audience and I go, my God, I was an alderman when this guy was a child, like a baby. And that's hard for me to fathom, but it happened. I mean, it's just the way it is, because you love this city like I do. And I want to let you know that this is important, that every member on this board right here, every member, I want to tell you, cares about our police and cares about our fire department. No matter what we say, we genuinely do. And I have talked to all these aldermen, and even the Board of Aldermen back years ago. We always had one thing in goal, and that is to try to do the best that we can. And I want you to know that, and it comes from the bottom of my heart, that's the fact that every single alderman, we may not see eye to eye, but one thing we do see is we do support our police and we do support our fire, because you guys are probably the most important, besides the other city employees that we have, but you guys really make this whole thing work in this city. I mean, you do. And I want you to know that's how we feel. I've always campaigned this, both my mother, who was an alderman and vice mayor of this wonderful town, and also a county commissioner over the years. But we have always said together that as long as you have adequate police protection, adequate fire protection, get your garbage picked up. I'm going to leave that one at that right there. But keep your taxes as low as possible. People will come here. And you know what? I've done that over the years. This board has done that over the years. And look at you. The people have still come here. So that, that says a great deal. Now, so I want to let you know from the political standpoint of where we are and where we're going. Although we go to you in times of need and trouble, you're in a situation like maybe an alderman is. I'm nowhere near like a fire or policeman. Nothing. I'm not saying that. But when our constituency, and that means the voters of Hendersonville or the taxpayers, doesn't matter whether you vote or not, it's the taxpayers that we're concerned with. But they do not, it's like this. I don't call on you guys unless I need you. But when I need you, I'm ready for you to be there. And that goes for both. I mean, am I right? You don't ever see anybody, or even sometimes you're in the store, they won't even talk. You don't want to even talk to them. You'll just walk by. But I'll tell you one thing, if I needed them, I'm expecting them to be there. And you should be paid that way. You should be paid that way, because we are expecting you, and we haven't done that. But tonight we've got an opportunity to make things right, to let you know how much we care and love for each and every officer and their families as a board. We want you to know that, and I hope that we're able to do that. I have a motion to make this evening that I hope that will help bring our brotherhood of the police department, and then let our firefighters know that we haven't forgotten about you, because we haven't. But we want to let you know that the police department is important to us, because it's to protect and serve, man. And you guys do that to the best. I mean, you're the best department I know of in Middle Tennessee. And that goes with the fire department. And I'm proud to say here, forgive me if I say this wrong, but we're almost close to the 10th largest city in the state. That says a lot about this community. That actually, to me as a politician, or, I don't consider myself a politician, I just consider myself somebody that got elected, luckily, over those years. But I consider that a reflection upon you guys. Because are you going to move to a city that there's no protection? No, you're not. You're a fool if you move. Oh my God, look at Memphis. Oh, y'all want to move to Memphis? No. I want to move to Hendersonville, where I know that my 97-year-old mother is sitting right there, probably watching on TV tonight. To when I come in the TV from tonight, she's watched it, and she's going to raise hell with me, pardon the expression, on something I did. Well, you should have done this, you should have done that. But I'll just say, yes, Mama, and go on. But I want to make an amendment or a motion, Mayor, that I think will resolve the issue on this for both our brotherhood, because I consider you my family. I mean, you really are my family. It's just me and my mother, that's it. My sister's gone, my brother's gone, my dad was right off of Vietnam, he died, and we stayed here instead of moving away. So for the new guys, I welcome you to the community. For the elderly, I mean, y'all the ones that raised me over the years. You really did. And this community is near and dear to my heart, just like it is you, both the police and the fire. So what I would like to do, Mayor, is I would like to go ahead and support the issue of giving the police department the I think it's 10%, Mayor, is that correct?
It is.
I want to put that in. I want to put that there for on the mid-year budget to give them the 10%. Now, by doing that, I would like that to be for the, I guess you call them patrol. See, I don't even know your job. And I've been here for years, but it's the patrol officers, the traffic control, but the guys who do a lot of who's out there every day risking their lives to keep our city as safe as possible. So I don't know how to do that, but that's what I want to do. But there's a caveat to this. I would like, and I mean no offense to the department heads or the staff, but I want to give them the regular policemen that's out on the streets, the 10%. Then I want to take, and I've thought about this a great deal, the knockout the, I guess, I don't know, you're advocating at one time it was 7% or whatever the percentages were, because I don't recall what the percentages were. But I want to knock those out for this part of the budget. I want to knock those out, and if I'm not mistaken, that's going to come to about $27,000, and that is the police commanders, the assistant police chief, the police chief, and I'm sorry, brother, I don't mean any disrespect to you about taking that away, but there's a reason why I want to do that. And that'll put it at about $27,000, I think, in some odd cents on that, and you'll have to ask the finance person to do that. But by doing that, we'll come out and put all the officers, give them what they deserve, because you deserve that. I wish I could give you more, but I can't right now, because we answer to the taxpayers of the community, just like you guys do. So it happens, and that's with the fire department. But at the same time, because I believe we all are a family in this community, I want to take that $27,000, Mayor, if I could, and I want to put that in the human, I guess it would be the human resource, HR department, of that $27,000, and I want them to study about the bridge for the fire department and police department, because it is important that I want the fire department to know that we care about you guys too. This is not just a one-way street in this town. We're all for everybody, and we want to do this the right way. We've got it. You just can't go hodgepodge on things. You got to do it the right way, that everybody will understand. And by doing this survey, Mayor, by doing that, it will let the police department have a say-so in it, and it will let the fire department have a say-so on that. Because really, in this budget, it's not about the fire department, it's about the police department. But I want to let you guys again reiterate that we're family, man. You're my family. You're our family. I mean, you really, and I know you hear a lot of political rhetoric from the politicians of the United States of America, but I'm telling you, when I say that, I mean it with all my heart. And I think you guys, if you've watched me on TV, you know I tell you how I feel. And I do feel that this evening. And in a way, I'm glad I get to tell you that, because there are some people that I've known over the years that are police officers and firemen. I haven't had the opportunity to tell you that. But my family loves you guys just like you were my family. And I would like to do that on that bridge, but here's the thing with that. The study, Mayor, I've written it down. The study has to be completed in time to be considered in the 2026 budget. I don't know that if it can or not, but that's what it will. The $27,000 will be used to study on the bridge program. Now, let me preface this, and we'll let the taxpayers know. It may not cost $27,000. Probably won't cost that. So whatever's left over, we can talk about that and put it either back in the general fund or whatever, but it's not going to cost $27,000 to fund it or to fund the study. I guarantee that it won't. I don't know we've ever had a study that cost $27,000. Just not going to happen. But I do want to again, take it again, Mayor, to put it in professional services for that study to be done before we talk, seriously about the 2026 budget. That way, we've paid, here's what we've got in summation of this. We've paid our police department what we can do, what we can take it out of our city budget that won't put us in peril. We can pay our men and women that protect us from criminals in this city and lawbreakers. We get the study for the fire department because it's important that we see what we can do with the bridge to help the fire and police together with that resolves that issue. To let you know how we care about you. Because sometimes I don't think, you guys just think we get up here and have fun or we talk about ordinances on it that doesn't apply to you, but you do. You really do. And that's why you guys are here tonight, why we're talking serious, why I'm not making a joke on something. Because I'm serious about it. And we care about you. So that's what my motion would be, Mayor. If there's anything that you think that I've missed on that, let me know. But I think that's.
Oh, okay. Alderman Robertson, thank you. Okay.
I think that's it, Mayor.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand this. So I'm looking on page 22.
All right.
So Alderman Robertson has made a second, and I think what the motion is, and I want to make sure that you understand it the same way, is on page 22, you've got that larger box where it says COLA 1% for all employees.
Yes.
We're keeping that, okay? We're keeping the plus 10% for police officers through sergeants,
Yes.
okay?
That's right.
And then we're scratching out 7.5% for police lieutenants and 2.5% for police commanders, assistant police chief, and police chief. Okay? Is that
Yes,
still?
yes, sir. That is
Okay.
exactly it.
Okay.
And I knew it was like 7.5 because I remember us talking about that.
Okay.
And one other thing, Mayor, and then I'll be quiet. And I appreciate my colleague from Ward 6 seconding the motion. I want to say one other thing. I don't want you to think the rest of the city employees in public works and parks and the rest, I don't want you to think that we haven't forgotten about you guys, especially in the Public Works Department. We care about you guys too. But we need to take it, address what we've got one step at a time. So we want to take the emergency personnel first and try to resolve the issue of pay, because we don't want to lose any more policemen. I mean, gosh, we just don't want to lose you. I'm not going to say who it was, and then I'll close, but I had one guy that was a police officer, and I know who you are, and you're not in here tonight. You're probably on call or at work. That I was in Kroger's getting my mom and myself some food, and this paper towel came flying across the paper roll came flying across my cart, and I said, "What the?" And I looked around, and it was a police officer, and I said, "Man, if I would have done that, you would have arrested me." But that's the kind of thing that I appreciate as a person, because he wasn't scared to come up and talk to me, and I want to keep that type thing. And I have that with the emergency, and we all do up here, and I appreciate that. I really genuinely do. And the firemen, heck, I'm not even going to tell you what they do to me. But they'll come and hit me underneath my leg and let you bulk, or almost fall in a line and stuff like that. But I appreciate that, and I want to continue, Mayor, that kind of camaraderie that we have in our community, because if we don't have that, we're doomed to fail, and our city is. And I want you to protect our city as best as you can and keep up that great work. And as far as our fire department, the same way it goes. But that's what I want to do, Mayor, if I can tonight. I appreciate my distinguished colleague from Ward 6, who I appreciate very much, and by seconding the motion. Mayor, and that's where if you see anything else that I said, I'm ready to do
So
that.
I'm going to ask Tamara to help us out. So you're going to
Okay.
take the savings from removing 7.5% for police lieutenants, 2.5% police commander, assistant chief, and police chief. You're going to take that savings, and which I think Public Safety Committee talked about this, is close to
Okay.
$27,000, and use it, what's the line item, Tamara?
It would be under professional services in HR.
Okay,
Yeah,
which I think
HR
you had
professional
it, okay.
services.
Yeah, and 27,000 is the correct dollar amount as well.
Okay, okay. Okay, please stay nearby. Okay, so we've got a motion, a second, so we need to discuss that motion only. And so really what we're limiting conversation to is bridge program and changes in the police races. We don't need to address anything else under the mid-year budget amendment, just those two items. Alderman Sassy, do you want to talk about those two items? I do. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for being here today, taking time out of your evenings to be here. I know, you'd rather be home, having dinner, but this is important. This is an important issue that we're considering tonight, so I really do appreciate you all being here, and I appreciate the board listening to some remarks that I have. So good evening. Nearly 2 years ago, we commissioned a salary study that clearly indicated the need to increase our police officers' pay to align with both regional standards and the invaluable service they provide. I, along with this board, recognize the urgency and the merit behind this increase. Our police officers work tirelessly, often under challenging circumstances, to ensure our streets are safe, our businesses are secured, and our homes are protected. They deserve our utmost respect and support. However, we face a significant challenge. Implementing such an increase mid-budget cycle, including such a significant amount, it's $500,000 just for a 6-month period, so it ends up being over $1 million per year. Without a comprehensive view of our financial outlook, poses risks not only to our fiscal planning, but also to the long-term sustainability of our city's budget. This decision could cascade, affecting not just our current fiscal year, but potentially placing an undue burden on our taxpayers in the years to come. As your Finance Committee, you trust us to see the whole picture on how decisions affecting our city's budget, the decisions we make, affect our city's budget down the road. We've got some early numbers showing this could bump us up to about $1.2 million in the first year, with those costs growing each year after that. But we'll get a better, clearer look at the real impact if we wait and consider this with our annual budget in just 3 months. And in fact, we're going to start considering it in just 3 weeks. We have our first workshop. Therefore, I propose an amendment to the amendment, Mayor, to this approach. Let us approve a step salary increase of 5%, 3.75%, and 1.25% for our police officers effective immediately. So it's half of what was originally proposed. This gesture acknowledges their hard work and begins to address the salary discrepancy highlighted by the salary study we conducted. But let's not stop there. I suggest we commit to a thorough review of the compensation packages for all of our public safety personnel, including both fire and police departments, during our next budget cycle. This review should encompass not only salaries, but also retirement benefits, medical benefits, and other forms of compensation that impact the well-being and retention of our public servants. By doing so, we ensure we are making informed decisions that benefit our officers in the long term, while also being mindful of our city's financial health. This approach allows us to balance immediate action with strategic foresight, ensuring that our support for our fire and police is both responsible and sustainable. I see you all out there, and I respect you, and I appreciate you. We value you more than you know, and as Alderman Skidmore said, when we need you, you guys are there. We've committed to doing right by you. Our community's peace of mind and safety is worth this investment, and we're asking for your patience as we navigate these financial waters. I urge my fellow board members to consider this amendment. Let's show our police force that we value them, that we are committed to their welfare, and that we are planning for their future as well as ours. Together, let's take this balanced step forward, demonstrating our appreciation and our fiscal responsibility to our community. Thank you.
Do we have a second? So we have a second from Alderman Evans. So help me understand this, Alderman Sassy. So whereas the initial amendment removed lieutenants, commander, assistant chief, and chief, you would put those back in there and cut in half what my initial proposal was, is instead of 10%, 5% for police officers through sergeants, and then 3.75 for police lieutenants, 1.25 for commanders, assistant chief, and police chief. Is that correct?
That's right, and I would like to leave in the study for the bridge program.
Okay.
Leave that in there.
Okay.
We also have a resolution, just foresight, we have a resolution coming at the Public Safety Committee about the bridge at their next meeting.
Okay. Your motion also included a review of compensation for the whole city. Is that right?
No, so it's not a review of compensation for the whole city. No, it's a review of the full compensation plan or package for our public safety officials.
Okay.
Officers.
Okay, but no money attached to that.
Right, but that is not with this amendment, that review. That is going to be for, I was stating that as, I was making a statement for our budget, our next budget cycle, that we should act now to prepare for our next budget and look at that entire package.
Okay, gotcha. So if you look on page 22, and please cut me off if I'm saying this incorrectly.
Sure.
If you look on page 22, it would be COLA 1% for all employees, plus 5% for police officers through sergeants, 3.75 for police lieutenants, and 1.25 for police commanders, assistant police chief, and police chief. Essentially lowering what was Alderman Skidmore's motion and adding some more people. So so now we need to talk on just this specific amendment. Alderman Evans, do you want to talk on just this specific? Okay, go ahead. Hold on. Alderman Robertson, you were actually first. So but it has to be on the specific amendment to the amendment. I don't.
So am I?
It is if you're going to speak just to his amendment.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Jason, would you please come forward? Jason is our HR director, an expert in human resources. He's the expert.
That's how rumors get started.
You know, I appreciate Alderman Sassy's attention to the budget. We, like a good chess game, we always have to think a step ahead. And I think all of our goal is to try to not increase property taxes unless it is absolutely necessary. But this idea of compression, this concept, salary compression, was used to justify granting raises to lieutenants and above because of the compression. Would you please define salary compression? And thank you, we've met a couple of times, but I want the citizens and those in the room to understand the concept.
Sure. So when you talk about compression, you first have to talk about how each job is weighted differently based on the responsibilities they carry. The higher level the position, the higher it's weighted, so it's given more weight. That has nothing to do about the work that they do, that just is the compensation structure to it. The reason that matters is as we look at the positions, how they currently stand, the officers through sergeants are all 5% apart. That means if somebody promotes within those roles, our policy right now is a 7.5% increase. With the grades only 5% apart, that means they're going to go to the exact same step they're on and one additional step up in order to equate that 7.5. The closer the grades get, the less desirable those positions become. That's why in the higher level roles, as you talk about lieutenants or you talk about commanders, that gap is just that much more important. Those people aren't eligible to receive overtime. They're paid a salary instead. So what they may have been able to make up by picking up extra shifts then goes away. So the more you reduce that, the less desirable those positions become.
So salary compression theoretically is not enough percentage difference in salaries between the ranks that would encourage lower rank employees to seek promotion.
Correct.
That's the fear. And according to the textbook, I guess, so to speak, what is that magic number of salary compression?
Yeah, ideally, you want what we have is a minimum of 5% between those is the very least that you would ever want to go.
Okay.
You want higher than that. That encourages people to promote.
Yes.
But if you go below 5%, that causes problems.
Mayor, I would like to, I did a data request from the staff on some information, and I would like, if they would put on the screen, the compression analysis. If you can put that on the screen. Thank you.
Okay.
Go explain what this chart
Sure.
says.
Let me just pull it up here real quick. So what this chart is doing is it's going through the existing pay grades and explaining that the starting point is as a certified officer. So an MPO, if someone was to promote to an MPO, now we all just recently, y'all voted on incorporating the FPO, or FTO, excuse me. But right now that means that's a 4.7% increase in the grade. And then as you go further, right, then you'll see 5.1, 5.0, 5.1. If you go to sergeant, it's a jump from the criminal investigator, 5.1. The lieutenant right now as it stands is 19.1.
Okay. Go ahead. So
going with the proposal that the mayor had that was originally submitted, with those changes of the 10%, 7.5%, and 2.5%, that means that gap between sergeant and lieutenant will close.
So I guess from the existing pay grades, this column, the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth column over,
yes, sir,
existing percentage, we really don't have any compression at the present time from lieutenant and down to chief.
No, you're getting close between lieutenant and commander at 7.8.
Yes.
But I would look at those and say we're still okay.
Okay, so compression does not exist in the current. Now, what if the motion that Alderman Skidmore made of just granting to the rank and file, or sergeant and below, police officers, what does that do to salary compression?
So when you're looking at compression, you're not then adjusting for the difference. So you're closing that gap between the sergeant and the lieutenants. So you're increasing it. So generally, you would say subtract 10% from that gap between sergeant and lieutenant.
So from sergeant to lieutenant would drop from 19% to 9.1%, which doesn't describe compression. Correct. If we use the 5%. What about from lieutenant to commander?
So those spreads don't change because you're not impacting the position above it.
So those would continue. So with the motion that Alderman Skidmore made, there is no compression, there is no added compression of salary ranges below the 5%.
Below 5%, no, that's correct.
Okay. So that's why I can't support at this time giving raises to lieutenants and above because I don't see the justification. And I'm going to have more to say, Mayor, on the main motion, but I wanted to make that point on the salary compression issue. I can't support I guess it's an amendment to an amendment, right? Yep. I can't support that because I don't believe that the 5% hits the number that we need to hit. I think 10% hits the number, and so I can't support the amendment to the amendment, but I also can't support the amendment to the amendment that gives raises up and down the board to all of the ranks. at this time. So thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. I'm going to turn off your light for right now because it's getting pretty confusing up here. And Alderman Evans, even though you seconded, usually I would come to you, but we had some other people that were in line to speak, if they're going to speak on Alderman Sassy's motion. So, Alderman Goodwin, Alderman Sassy's motion or not?
I can speak on that.
Go ahead. Now you're good.
I don't know if this is the time to bring up a few things, but before you decide on voting for the 5%, I want to let you know that the Sheriff's Department has requested, and they possibly will be getting a 3% COLA and a step raise. I don't think 5% is going to stop our problem right now. I don't think 5% is going to keep our officers here right now. That's just my opinion. I will not be voting for the amendment to the amendment to the amendment.
Alderman Goodwin, thank you. Alderman Dixon on Alderman Sassy's motion? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Alderman Robertson, for clarifying that with the compression analysis. I appreciate that. That helps me a lot with how I'm looking at this. I'm not real thrilled with the First Amendment, but I'm even less thrilled with the 5%. And it's because we have a crisis, and that crisis is right now. It's real today. It's real this coming weekend when we have 30-some spots on the roadway that aren't filled due to the losses we've already had. We need to keep and lessen the turnover with our highly capable, highly ethical police officers that we have. And we owe it to them based on what they deal with every single day. We place such importance on a police officer's role, and yet we don't show that we value them with income. And I want to change that. I jotted just a few things down. This is what we ask our officers to do or be. We ask them to be law enforcement agents and to be perfect at it. We ask them to face unpredictable and potentially highly dangerous situations every single day. We expect them to know constitutional law at the face of adversity. I don't know about you, but I don't know my name when I'm facing adversity most of the time. We expect them to be amateur psychologists, trying to cope effectively with hysteria and rage and delusions from the behaviors of citizens, and most often it's people outside of Hendersonville. And most of them are having the worst day of their life, and the police officer is there to offer help. We expect them to be EMTs. We expect them to navigate the sensitivity issues of race, culture, religion, gender, that you know they're facing. We don't like to talk about it, but you know they are. And we expect them to do this day in and day out. What a task. I can't go for the 5% right now and then give them, something in first quarter of 2026, or I can't do it. We need to do it now. We need to do it tonight. I'm still struggling with the First Amendment, or the first motion, because I like to pay our leadership. I think it's important. So I need a few minutes to think about that. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Alderman Dixon, thank you. Alderman Collins, are your comments going to be on Alderman Sassy's amendment?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to respectfully say that I would greatly appreciate if Alderman Sassy would withdraw his amendment and let us deal with the first one, which I thought was primarily focused on evaluating our benefit package before we dive too deep into salary changes to the percentage. I think those are two separate issues and they're getting muddled right now. I'd like to do one. I'd like to deal with one, and then if you want to offer an amendment to change the salaries, we could deal with that as its own issue instead of tacking them onto one another like this. Okay.
Thank you, Alderman Collins. Alderman Evans.
All right, I'm trying to catch up with everything. So, first of all, thank you all for being here, and thank you. It's good to be with you tonight. I want to say, first of all, that I want to apologize for some of my comments that were made last month. I think it was on January 28th, which it was not my intent to sow discord or to be divisive at all. That's not my intent, and I apologize for that. I value all the decisions and all the comments that are made because I do see that, and you all appreciate this, that the decisions we are making are not easy decisions. I've spent most of my career working in nonprofit and in the public sector, working for the public. And I know that being a public servant, it's rewarding, but also it is difficult too. And so I just wanted to say that first and foremost. But what we struggle with is not only are we trying to do the best for our city, but we're also trying to do it with limited resources. And you know this, that there are many wants and needs, and we're trying to balance that with the revenues and the resources that we're given. So I want to make sure that my comments, what I'm sharing tonight, is not meant to take one side or the other. My comments are mainly from a fiscal perspective, if you will, because that's where I live. 42 years in the finance world. Just a couple of comments, and then I'll make it real quick. When I started looking at this, I was looking at it. Can we afford this now? When you look at our sales tax revenue, yes, it's up for this year. It's up about 1.5 million over last year, and our property taxes are up as well. But so that's about $2 million for within this fiscal year. Yes, that can take care of these raises for now, but I wonder if that is sustainable, and I think that's kind of where I'm coming from on this. Is I hope it will be. I hope that our sales tax revenue will be there. Our property taxes will continue to be robust, but I don't know. I don't have anything to compare that to. I've never been through a budget cycle with the city of Hendersonville, but I know that with budgets with large organizations like ours, you can't continue to raise the expenditures, the budgets, if you don't know where the revenue is going to be coming from. So I'm just being cautious with that and wanting to just to kind of wait. We're close to having a budget for fiscal year 26, and that's kind of where I'm coming from with this. Is I'd like to offer something. That's why I seconded Alderman Sasse's amendment, was because I'd like in good faith to offer something now, and then with the hope that we can do something more once we look at the full picture for fiscal year 26. And I've already talked to staff, and I'd like for it to be comprehensive as far as what we're looking for in the next year, that it's not just going to be salaries, but it's everything. I know benefits are a big deal for our staff. It was for my family. My wife was a 38-year school teacher, and benefits are important. So I just wanted to share that. The city budget is mostly fixed, and once we agree to do something, it continues down the road, and we've just got, if we're going to do this, we've got to make sure that the revenue is going to be there to follow it. Thank you.
Alderman Evans, thank you. Alderman Garza.
Yes, and I feel very strongly, as Karen Dixon does, Alderman Dixon. I think we're in an emergency situation here. We've lost policemen, and I know the fire's coming up better now with the training, but we can't lose another one. We can't wait 6 months and maybe lose one or two more. They're hard enough to get as it is. So I am not in support of waiting. I'm in support of voting tonight when we come up with the right resolution. It's just too important. And I know there's finance, and I know there's budgets. I respect both of those. But those aren't going to exist very long if our police department keeps shrinking. It's just not going to exist. And I got to tell you something, guys. I came into corporate. I think I'd have left a job in a heartbeat for $10,000 more a year. I think most people at this table would. So I don't see it as a financial issue. Trust me when I say I know it will have financial impact, but I see it as the biggest need in our city right now is having safety with our police. Fire too, but tonight we're discussing police. And so I can't support waiting. Just so you know, I'm in support of getting it done tonight and paying these safety people what they deserve.
Alderman Garza, thank you. Alderman Sassy.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Robertson, I'm actually glad you brought up compression, because I looked into that as well, and I actually had our staff look at that as well. And before I even considered this amendment, because I put a lot of thought into it, a lot of studying. I had the staff look into it as well and helping me with that because they know the numbers better than anyone. And I have an email here from our COO, Mr. Eckenroth, that says specifically on this plan that I'm introducing that we have no major concerns with compression under this scenario. So I made sure that we had that in place. If there was a major compression issue, I wouldn't even brought it up. So I appreciate you bringing that up so we can clear the air on that. As for, I hear the passion of this board. I hear the emotion of this board. This is something we need to do now, and I agree. We need to do something now, which is why I'm proposing this vast increase, this considerable increase, 5%, starting at 5%, the lower tier, so we can get the police that additional pay, and then in 3 weeks we can start talking about, okay, how can we get this other 5% to them? Let's look at the entire budget as a whole. We're starting from scratch right now. We're looking at a budget that already has line items committed, and we don't have any real wiggle room there. We're already, Mayor, if we're not considering, help me out here if you could, if we're not considering, and maybe this is a Tamara question, but if we're not considering the money that we're taking out of reserves, we're overspending by about $2 million, is that right, for the fiscal year?
Help me out. I don't think.
I mean, because we're using money out of reserves in order to balance the budget,
Well,
right?
we're using money of our infrastructure reserve for
Okay.
a specific infrastructure project. How much are we taking out of Tamara for infrastructure?
I may have that number wrong.
Yeah, well, it was money that what was budgeted in the previous fiscal year that we just basically put in savings, and now we need it for that project. Go ahead.
On the mid-year budget, we are proposing to utilize just under $527,000 from the infrastructure reserve on this
Okay.
budget proposal that's before you.
And what project is it? Help me out, Tamara.
That was for the increase to the Walton Ferry realignment project.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you. Yeah, I figured I had that number wrong, so I appreciate that. But if we're starting fresh from a bare bones budget, I feel like we can find that additional 5% pretty easily, so we could then start the new fiscal year with those increases that the police need, with an entire, hopefully a revamped compensation package, because we'll have the time and the resources in order to look at all that. That's where I'm coming from with this, and I hope that this board can understand that and vote for this amendment. Thank you.
Alderman Sassy, thank you. So it seems like all the discussion on Alderman Sassy's motion, that we're finished with that. Okay. You ready for registration, JP? Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to do my best to restate what the motion is. That if you look on page 22, that we would still have the 1% for all employees, plus 5% for police officers through sergeants, 3.75% for police lieutenants and 1.25% for police commanders, assistant police chief, and police chief. And we would spend $27,000 for the bridge program study. What'd I forget?
That's it.
Okay. On this study. Okay. Okay, so, hold on, Tamara's got something to say. We wouldn't have savings of $27,000.
Did you want dollar amounts associated with that?
I don't think so. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that. And if this fails, we go back to the motion made by Alderman Skidmore and second by Alderman Robertson. And Lance has an explanation of that that's better than what I did a few minutes ago. So, are we good to vote? Thank you, Tamara. Jason, you ready for us? So, those in favor of the motion, press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one.
Mine's not working.
Okay. So, there we go. Okay. So does everybody, do the votes in front of you reflect the way you voted? Let's make sure.
Yes.
Okay. Jason, hold on. So those voting in favor, Alderman Bergdorf, Sassy, and Evans. Those opposed, Alderman Skidmore, Ward, Martin, Garza, myself, Alderman Dixon, Goodwin, Garten, Collins, and Robertson. Okay, Jason, thank you. Okay. So now we're back to the motion that was made by Alderman Skidmore and Alderman Evans. And I'm going to ask Lance to read that. And Alderman Skidmore and Evans, let's make, this sounds better when I did, but I want to make sure it's correct. Okay.
Skidmore Robertson, right?
Skidmore Robertson.
If I have this correct, Alderman Skidmore, it's delete 7.5% for police lieutenants and 2.5% for police commanders, assistant police chief, and police chief, and add $27,000 to professional services for HR to fund a study relative to the TCRS retirement bridge supplement for public safety employees and to survey employees' level of value for such a plan. He wasn't listening.
Did that cover it? Yes. Alderman Robertson, was that your understanding?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to go to Alderman Goodwin. I think that's correct. Thank you, Lance.
Okay, let me try and get organized here because I have a lot to say. I know that surprises you. This gap has been worsening. We've been kicking the can down the road. I am not happy with the motion that's been made to leave off the lieutenants, commanders, assistant chief, and chief. Not happy about that. To me, it shows we don't care about them. I don't think they're going to leave at this point. I'm real conflicted on how I want to vote on that. But we have an emergency with the others, and it's hard for me to look out here and tell them that I'm not going to vote when I think we're going to have a mass exodus from the police department. I have made some phone calls. Like I said, the sheriff's department is going up in their pay. Again, that's going to put us even lower once again. THP is getting ready to hire a huge amount. The airport is getting ready to hire a huge amount. We keep telling them this. We've told them tonight, oh, let's give you 5% and pacify you. When I pulled the numbers and talked, we have 16 vacancies. 4 have been hired, but they have not yet started. 4 at the in-house academy. 1 is at the training academy. 3 are on military, 5 are in training. That puts us 29 positions down for patrol right now. If we don't get it right, we're already going to be lower. A lot of these guys are going to walk out the door. This is where I live. I want to be safe. I want to help the fire department. But right now, mid-year budget is for emergencies. If we don't do this right now, this cannot wait. I want to look at the pay for firefighters at the fiscal year budget coming up in a few weeks. I want to look at benefits for all of our city employees. I've called around to check insurance across. We're going to have to do something to help everybody. It's time we do the right thing. Like I said, I'm still deciding on how I'm going to vote because I think it's kind of a slap in the face to the people that have been here longer, saying, well, we appreciate you, but we know you have so much time and so you're not going to go. But then I can't look at the people that are out there struggling every day to support their families. We're going to look at it for fire fiscal year, but we've got to do something for police right now. It's an emergency. It cannot wait. We're going to lose more with all these raises. I don't really want to make an amendment to the amendment, but right now our HPD to the agencies that we're losing our officers to are down 13.72%. So I'm hoping that if we do 10% and it gets passed, that that's enough to keep these guys for a while. Thank you.
Alderman Goodwood, thank you. Alderman Sassy, you sort of had the floor before when you made the amendment. You want me to come back to you, or are you good for now?
I'm good for now.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Alderman Collins.
I have questions for Director Ingersoll, please. Because I do want to talk about the numbers. With this position, with the lieutenants and commanders, the 2.5%, how much income does that produce? I mean, like if we take that off, what's the dollar amount attached to that?
If you go from the lieutenants and above,
And if we change lieutenants from 2.5 to 0.
okay, lieutenants are in at 7.5%
I'm
right
sorry.
now.
Commander and the assistant police chief and police chief. If we eliminate the 2.5 for them.
It's about $8,000 for
That's
the mid-year
$8,000.
budget.
Okay, and how much do we get specifically for taking lieutenants?
The lieutenants is about $19,000.
And that's going from 7.5 to 0?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, there's about it's 27,000 for that whole grouping of them
Okay, and
altogether.
then what if we reduce that only to 5%?
For the lieutenants, if
Yes.
it was at 5%,
Yes.
it would be 13,000.
Thank you. And I would like to, I have a question. I don't know if Mr. Eggenroth or Jason is a better choice to answer this next question, whoever can. If we were to conduct a study of our benefits, in my mind, if we're going to look at the bridge, we need to have TCRS and probably MTAS come in and do like a information session that we could record and put online so people can either attend or watch it later. Follow it up by a third-party anonymous survey to see what people who would be impacted by the bridge would actually want. And I don't know, I know that they might charge us for their time, but I don't have any concept of how much that would actually cost. But I'm also wondering if we want to just evaluate like our health insurance cost compared to other agencies' health insurance costs, specifically the ones that we're actually losing people to, which is BNA and the sheriff's office predominantly. Do we need to hire somebody for that, or can we just figure that out? Like,
we can look at it. I really like having a third party who's objective to look at it. That way they can kind of look across the board. And
how much does that cost?
if we did just benefits alone, I think our salary study was around $70,000 to do. So it would be significantly less than that. Now, it took months to gather the data for the salary study because it's public records requests.
You said 7,000?
70,000. Sorry, yes, 70,000 for the pay study. So, I mean, I would expect it to be a lot less than that. It just depends how comprehensive we want to get, and if we want to wrap, because bridge is a benefit, TCRS is a benefit, medical, dental, all those types of things in. You know, it takes a minute to get all that information and then prepare the meetings and have it in an open forum and videotaped and all those things. But I would expect it to be less than the salary survey.
If we were to go about investigating the bridge, is that the process I described what you would look to do, to have like information sessions where all public safety could come and learn from the experts about what it is, and then have a third party do an anonymous poll?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways we could tackle it. I mean, if we're going to study it, we should study it legitimately and do it, you know, in a public forum and have someone come in to explain it.
And educate
yeah,
everybody.
Absolutely.
Because, and the reason I think that's the education component and being very open and having it, you know, put it on YouTube like this meeting will be later, is because I have one person tells me something, another person tells me something else, and I need to be educated on it. But I know that people have the wrong idea because I have a lot of conflicting information from different people. So somebody's wrong. I don't know who it is, but on very detailed things that really have a high impact on whether or not it's beneficial or not beneficial. So I think the education component is really important, and I do want to explore that. I would love to accomplish that in time for the next budget. Is that reasonable?
I don't think so, because we have to go out and do an RFQ. You know, we have to go through all the bidding processes. So this decision won't even finish up until 2 weeks from now. And then we'll have to post an RFQ, and that usually takes 4 to 5 weeks. We have to select a consultant. That takes a week or two. Whenever they can start the project, that may take them a month, 2 months, 3 months to do the project. Then we have to prepare the reports, schedule the public meetings, have a session, maybe 2 sessions. So, I mean, we have development impact fees that are coming up before the board here shortly as well. We're trying to finalize that schedule right now. That's what Mayor and I were talking about today. So we have budget coming up. We have impact fees coming up. It would be hard to get a consultant and to get public meetings in time, like, because we're going to have to start talking about that really in April, because the budget goes to BOMA at the end of May, pretty much wrapped up. So that means we have to have those discussions March and April to be prepared for end of May, early June.
And we have a budget workshop in like 3 or 4 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah,
March 18th.
and for us to go out on a formal bid process to do an RFQ to get a consultant, it takes a month just to do that.
Okay, I have another question for whoever is the right person to answer this. When you move from sergeant to lieutenant, you're no longer salaried. I mean, you become salaried as a lieutenant. I said that completely backwards. So the salary compression table shows a big number there. What is it really when you're not getting overtime anymore? Like, what does that really look like? Because I've heard from people that sergeants in practice can make more money than the lieutenants.
Yeah, so what really takes place is our promotional policy says you have to get a 7.5% increase when you promote. And so that's really what takes effect when you promote, is you get a 7.5% increase. Now, it doesn't say that you factor in overtime on top of your base pay.
Yeah.
So what you do is you take your pay of a position, you increase it 7.5%, and you're going to fall somewhere on the next salary schedule. So when Jason and I actually did an analysis of overtime for the sergeant's positions, and it ranges from 0 up to like 6%, and most of them were around 1.5% to 2%. So not a lot of overtime at the sergeant's position. And then
That's really reassuring. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Jesse. I don't think I have any more questions. I want to say that this issue has become very emotional, and we've had a lot of public comments that painted this as a choose your favorite child scenario, and we've had a lot of comments that were just straight support for police, and we've had a lot of comments that suggested a need for unity between police and fire. I do not support the idea that this is one versus the other. It's our job to figure out how to provide for everyone. And I really think we can. It is really scary to commit to $1.2 million operating expenses outside of an annual budget. It's not a small amount of money. That said, this issue has really highlighted for all of us. I hope that we have not addressed the pay study that we did 3 years ago. We all sat up here and said, oh, in general, police, individual departments aside, the city is paying average-ish, and none of us thought that that was acceptable. At least one member of the board said at that time that they wanted to see us in the 85th percentile, yet we have done nothing to move the needle. We have only done the social, outside of the 5% that we did a while back that was exclusively for police. We have only done the COLA as indicated by the Social Security Index. We need to do better for everybody. We need to really use this as a time of reflection to look at our benefits. I'm hearing consistently that we're not paying enough of your health insurance cost. And I know that the health insurance costs have gone up nationwide for everybody, but we have not addressed that as a city. And do our constituents get excited about us saying we're going to spend a bunch of money on salaries and we're going to spend a bunch of money on health insurance for our employees? No, they don't. That's still our job because the city has to run, and they just expect us to take care of it and handle it, and we really just have not been. And I really hope that in the next fiscal year's budget, I really want to see more than the Social Security Index indicated, I think, at 2% this year for all of our employees, because everyone deserves more than what we're paying them. And sometimes we forget, I say this, I'm like a broken record. Sometimes we forget that we have people working maintenance and road crews and maintenance workers in our parks. They are not making a lot of money at all. And we cannot neglect one group. It's not over another group. We just need to do better by everybody. I am going to be able to support Alderman Skidmore's amendment with the caveat that I would like to see us, I hope I don't regret it, because I really hope that we can make improvements in the next fiscal year budget beyond that 2% to bring the lieutenants up. I am reassured that compression due to overtime is not a big concern in that area, but I'm still a little concerned about it. And I do want to see us look at the bridge, health insurance overall, and just the entire compensation package. Let's be holistic about this. And, you know, this is a wake-up call, and it's time to stop kicking the can. Thank you.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Keep your light on 1 second. So we have a choice here, is that if we feel like we could vote on the amendment, if nobody else wants to speak, we can do that and then take a break, or we can take a break. Is there anybody else that feels they need to speak about the amendment before we vote on it?
Do we need to amend the amendment to say the 27 budget?
That wasn't an option, but we could come back to that. So, maybe. So does anybody, so.
Well, if we vote on it, we can't come back to it.
Right. What it sounds like is that Alderman Collins wants to make a motion to take a 5-minute break.
That sounds like what I want to do.
Okay, okay. We have a second from Alderman Evans. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, we're back on, y'all. So when Jesse answered a question a few minutes ago, Lance and I were a little bit confused, and so we're going to ask Jesse to answer this question. Hopefully it will give us some clarification. So the study that Alderman Skidmore mentioned and a survey that he mentioned, could we get that done before the second reading of the fiscal year budget for next year?
Yeah, I think the question that I was answering from Alderman Collins was a comprehensive with medical benefits and everything. What I can say is we can put our full effort into doing it. I can reach out to the state to see if they know anyone who does those types of studies. The bridge for Tennessee is specific to Tennessee, so they may know a consultant that I don't, and if the state can do it themselves and we can skip the RFQ process, then it's a potential. It's something I would have to research and look at, but I think pulling out all the medical piece of it makes it easier to accomplish rather than harder to accomplish.
Okay, thank you for that clarification for us. Alderman Collins, do you want to ask a question about that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Did Alderman Skidmore's original amendment include other benefits or just the bridge?
It was just the TCRS bridge program.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that. Alderman Skidmore.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. You know, compression, depression, progression, I don't know about all them words, you know, because they mean something totally different to me in any definition. But here's what I do know, and I implore the board to support the amendment that I would help to produce here tonight. But I do know one thing. And you've heard it 1,000 times, if you've heard it once, not only tonight at this board, but also in the community. We can't afford to lose any more police officers. We just can't. So I would ask you to support the amendment. And then we also, again, need to help to, we have heard as aldermen time and time again about the bridge. And I think we need to continue to work on that bridge to figure out just what we can do to enhance the employees of the fire and the police department both, to see if this is a beneficial thing. And I think we can have the time. I think there is time to do it. But that's just what I'm asking. We can't afford to, the bottom line on this amendment for this ordinance, we can't afford to lose any more. I mean, I cannot even comprehend, and I'll close with this, I cannot comprehend that if we continue to lose officers, and it takes 10 minutes when you get a phone call to go from Gallatin Road all the way to Roberta Drive in my district. And it takes 10 or 15 minutes for an officer to get there. That's ludicrous. So I would ask you to do that. And then there was a comment made, and then I'm sorry that we really need to vote on this tonight because I know the hour's late. And some of you guys hadn't even been to bed yet. I know how it works. So I could tell you stories on that, but I'm not going there. I'm not going to do that. But I was very fortunate enough in my life to own a company. And it was a legal research company, and I'm very proud of it. I sold it for pretty good. And it was a legal process serving company too. And I had 3 offices in the end, I had 3 offices in the state of Tennessee. When I first started that company, there were times I didn't even take a paycheck because I had to pay my employees. If it hadn't been for the family, I don't know what I would have done. And I'm very grateful, and that's where I want to relate that some of our department heads within the police department may not be getting that raise. But I know and I understand, but I believe in that because it still will come out better for you. It came out great for me. It really did. But there were times when I didn't take a check. And it was almost a year that I lived like that. And then the bottom fell out, and man, it went gangbusters. So, you know, I understand and I can identify with that, especially in the times now. Inflation is high. You know, what are we paying now? I think I looked at Kroger's. There were $8 eggs, $8.15, I think it was. So my mom didn't get eggs that week. And I came back and told her, she understood. She cussed me, but that's the way it goes. But anyway, my point is that there are times when you are in that leadership position, you do have to do that for the lower standard who are out risking their lives. And in my business, they were serving papers. They were doing the research late at night for court cases that were coming up. And that's living, you know. I mean, that's just the price that we have to pay when we are in charge of people. And so there were things that I couldn't do for a while. So I want to let people know that I understand that. I want to let the department people know that I understand that. But it's going to be okay, because we'll come back and look at their salaries just like we will everybody else. I hope everybody supports on this amendment tonight. We're at a crossroads with our folks, and I want to see every position filled in the police department, Mayor. And I hope this is the right step. Well, I don't hope, I know it is. It's the right step at the right time, and we're moving in the right direction, both for the police and fire. And I do believe that with all my heart. And Mayor, I don't know if anybody else is in the queue, but I'd like to call the question on the motion, and we can go ahead and vote on this amendment because of the hour of the night.
So you've got two other people in the queue. If you want to call the motion and get a second, it would take a 2/3 vote to cut off discussion.
Because we've got second reading of 2 weeks.
So you have a motion and a second. So Alderman Garton, Alderman Robertson, I've got to ignore you for a few minutes. Jason, I need you to pull up electronic vote. So this requires two-thirds votes, which for us is, we're supposed to figure this out before every meeting. I believe it's 10 in order to cut off discussion. Is that right? 8, no, it's 9. Okay. So those in favor of cutting off, so we have a motion. Did you have the second? Okay. So those in favor of cutting off discussion and going straight to a vote on the amendment will press the green button. Those opposed will press the red one. Thank you. You're fine.
It's not working.
Comes down to Alderman Collins.
I pushed it.
Okay, so that passes 9-4. Jason, are you ready? Okay, so does anybody need the motion restated? Might as well. Okay, so can you hand?
So deleting the 7.5% for the police lieutenants, 2.5% for the police commanders, assistant police chief and chief, adding $27,000 to professional services for HR to fund a study relative to the TCRS retirement bridge supplement for public safety employees and to survey employees' level of value for such a plan.
Okay, Jason. All those in favor of that, press your green button. Those opposed, press the red one. So that passes 11-2. Those voting against, Alderman Sassy, Alderman Evans. Those voting in favor, Alderman Bergdorf, Skidmore, Ward, Martin, Garza, myself, Alderman Dixon, Goodwin, Garton, Collins, and Robertson. So now we're back on the main motion. Alderman Garton, Alderman Robertson, pretty much what you wanted to say before, you can say now because it applies to the main motion if it applied to what the amendment was. So we'll go to Alderman Garton.
I'm good. Pull it.
You're good.
I'm good.
Okay. Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the mayor and the staff for their hard work in trying to address a problem that we have. During the height of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln was asked the question, how does it feel to be the president? And Lincoln said, well, I feel like a man with 11 holes in my roof and I just got 10 fingers. Well, what we're doing tonight, we're trying to patch the biggest hole in our roof. And that's the pay for the rank and file employees. I looked real careful at where we having this problem in other departments. Because believe me, if we were having this problem in other departments, I would be here advocating for market wages, competitive wages for whatever department is having trouble. Jason, would you come forward, please? And go to the slide where it talks about the department and the budgeted employees and the current employees and the vacancies. So, Jason, I ask you point blank, were other departments having the same problem that the police department was with employees, and you produced this illustrative document? Can you find it?
Jason, I think it's the vacancy one. He's working on getting it pulled up.
Okay.
Nope. You're fine.
There you go. So, explain to me, answer my question. Are other departments having similar problems that the police department is in attracting and retaining employees?
Not to the level that the police department is experiencing.
Explain this chart.
So this chart will show you, and this was a snapshot in time about a month ago. So what we have is budgeted employees, how many employees they had currently at that time, how many vacancies that they had. This does not include, to the point that was made earlier, people on FMLA or any military leave, anything like that. And then how many were in the process of onboarding. So for the police department, they had 16 vacancies and 4 that were in the process at that time. I can't tell you those 4 have started. For fire, they had 4 that were in the process, 4 vacancies and 4 that started. You can kind of figure out as you go down that list, 3 for public works, 2 that were in the process. So the amount of applications, the amount of interest, no other department has experienced it to the level that the police department has.
So our departments aren't similarly situated at this time regarding retention and hiring of new employees?
Correct.
They're not similarly situated, yeah. And that's why I'm in favor of just addressing the police at this time. It's also the reason, again, guys, it's nothing personal, it's all business, but I can't make the case that it's an emergency to pay more for lieutenants and above, based upon the compression analysis, based upon them not leaving. So what we have to do when we look at this chart, we see these departments and we see the number of budgeted employees beside. I want to be able to tell employees in the Parks Department, in the Public Works Department, that the only reason in the mid-year budget that I supported this substantial pay raise for the police department is because we are in an emergency. In fact, I think it's more of an emergency. I would equate it to a clear and present danger. So I think it's even higher than an emergency. And that's the reason I support the amendment motion. I think that it's warranted and that it needs to be done. Jesse, would you come forward, please? Because I guess we need to ask all of our budget questions now, or do we want to bifurcate?
No, we're back on the main motion now.
Main motion, okay. Jesse, our citizens entrusted us with an increase of a half a penny sales tax. And it's targeted where that money can go for. If our citizens hadn't voted for that half a penny sales tax, where would we be right now in the mid-year budget? Do you estimate?
Yeah, I mean, really, the increase in sales tax was to stave off property tax. We would have had to do a property tax increase to address these issues, so we would not be at the same place.
You know, and we may not have been able to purchase the fire equipment and the police vehicles that we did with the PIP fund. So I want to thank the citizens, and I want to thank the few members of this board that were brave enough to take a public stand in supporting the half a penny sales tax. It puts us in a much more physical place where we can address these issues. Again, I support this. I think that it's needed. I think it addresses a clear and present danger to our city's ability to protect our citizens, and I encourage my fellow aldermen to support the amended motion for the mid-year budget review. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Evans, did I turn off your light, or? Go ahead.
No, that was me. I was misunderstanding where we are in the whole process. Well, I'm just knocking everything off, but
Okay.
I think I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Collins.
I do have a question, I think, for Jesse, and if we could pull up the slide, the vacant positions, I think is the name of it, that's 2023 to 2025. I guess I need to wait. Perfect.
Okay.
One of the things that it really stands out is that in a previous conversation that we had, you told me that we had in the last 2 years 22 officers who were not certified who left. And we also have 22 officers in the past 2 years who left not for a competing agency, but we can see the reasons there. Private employer, moved out of state. That's not really a competing agency. They moved. Unfortunately, passed away. Retirement. And so we have 9 officers in the past 2 years who we seem to have lost to competition. But the 22 that didn't make it through long enough to become certified before they bailed and went to the private sector, perhaps this money will help us have a different applicant pool. But what would you anticipate, as it's written now, the outcome for this pay increase for HPD to be?
Sure, as far as will it stop the entire problem?
What's a realistic goal to say for this
Yeah, I'm going
big
to
expense?
Sure, I think it's a fair question to ask, and I think it is just part of the equation that needs to happen. I don't think we're going to do a 10% raise for some positions, and tomorrow we're going to fill every single position with qualified candidates. Chief Jones has kind of started a motto that he wants the quality over the quantity, while both are important. That's a focus for them to get really good applicants in. So there's more of a holistic approach. I think that's going to need to happen, not just with pay. To that end, actually, Casey is working with PD today to do some updates to website, do some updates with flyers. So when this comes out, we're ready to have new flyers go out as far as recruitment goes. So I think there's multiple things we're going to have to look at, not just salary, because of the pressure that's on police nationwide.
Which we can't really impact. Okay, thank you.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Jesse, thank you. Jason, you ready for us? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Alderman Robertson, go ahead.
Chief Jones, would you come forward, please? You know, we've talked a lot about the police department. We've talked to HR, and we've talked to finance, we've talked to our COO, but we haven't heard from the chief. Chief, I'd like for you just to share from your heart what kind of problems you having, and just share with this board from a leadership position what you would want us to consider before we vote.
So specifically, I mean, I think y'all have already voted, on the amendment. And so, but specifically, we have a lot of quality folks that work for the police department. And that's from some that have been there a year to those that have been there 30 years that continue to serve this police department. And every one of those positions is critical to the function of the police department on a daily basis. And, I heard a lot of comments about the sergeant's rank and the officer's rank, and that's very important. Very important to get quality applicants in here, and that's difficult to do when we have our guys are going out and trying to sell the police department. And when they look around and other agencies are paying substantially more, that's very difficult for us to deal with. Because we've run into that where they come to us and they maybe want to work for Hendersonville, but then they look at the pay and they look at the pay compared to other agencies and they decide to go somewhere else. And it's the same way with officers, and that not just some that have been here 2 and 3 years or those that maybe choose not to apply here, but even some that have been here longer than that choose to leave because of pay and benefits. And that's why, in my view, it's important to take care of everybody at every rank within the police department on not only pay but benefits. And it's becoming increasingly, it's always difficult. We've always had a history with Hendersonville Police Department. We do an extensive background check on everyone that comes in and applies for us. And there's people that come in and apply that we turn down that another agency is going to hire. But every time those hiring decisions are made, we're trying to make those decisions on who do I want to respond to your house at 2 o'clock in the morning when you call and tell me somebody's breaking in your house? Who do I want to send out there with these officers to back them up at any time of the day or night when they're stopping unknown folks on the side of the road that we don't know what kind of crimes they've been involved in, or maybe some of them we do know. I want to make sure they have the very best support with the people that we're hiring. And if we don't offer them competitive pay and benefits, we're not going to have that. And what we will lose over time is that institutional knowledge. You heard some comments earlier about these guys come in, and we have a very robust training program. I think it's one of the best anywhere for our new officers. But at the end of the day, we put them through all this training until they get out on the road and start answering calls with those people who have been here for a number of years, and that's sergeants and lieutenants, corporals, guiding them and giving them the benefit of their experience. That's what it takes for them to become productive and successful officers here. And so if they're not getting that because the experience is walking out the door, that creates a huge gap in what we're able to provide to the citizens of this city. So it's very important that we do offer, even the officers walking in the door, good pay and benefits, but we've also got to take care of those that have been here a long time. And our goal is when somebody comes in the door, we want them to consider a 30-year career with the Hendersonville Police Department. Not stay 2 or 3 years and then move on down the road. That's not what we want. We want people with tenure to stay with our organization and stay with our agency to keep providing the good service to every citizen in this community. And it's extremely important that we do that. But the issue we run into is, for the first time ever, we're not competitive. And I've been with, I think a lot of y'all know, I've been with the city for 39 years. And we've always been competitive, not only with the agencies around us, but with agencies around Middle Tennessee to draw in candidates. And even at that, we get to pick from the very best of the ones that are applying to us. But that pool has decreased significantly, and it's been said up here tonight, about nationally the number of people that want to go into law enforcement. And so because that pool shrinks, and then you have people that want to go into law enforcement, but they're not qualified to go into law enforcement. Tennessee Post has some pretty specific rules about who can and cannot be a police officer in the state of Tennessee. And so it's important for us to make sure that we're following all those guidelines and then offering the citizens of this community the very best that we have to offer. And again, this is the first time that I can recall that we have not been competitive. So it's extremely important that we, again, you know, and I think I've in comments, I've told some folks that even this raise, this does not put us above the surrounding agencies. It just does not. And always previously, we paid more than other agencies, but what it does do is at least puts us back at least competitive and puts us back in the ballpark.
I hope so. Alderman Roberts, anything else? I appreciate that. So we have one amendment to ordinance 2025-02 that we voted on and that was approved. All those in favor of first reading of ordinance 2025-02 as amended, please press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. That passes unanimously. We'll see that again in 2 weeks. Thank you all. Next, we're Resolution 2025-06, a resolution amending the membership and duration of the Lakeshore Committee, which is established by Ordinance 2024-21. Alderman Dixon.
So moved.
Motion from Alderman Dixon and a second from Alderman Goodwin. Any discussion?
I'll
Go ahead, Alderman Dixon.
I'll be glad to clarify what we're doing. As you are aware, last month we brought in an ordinance to populate this new committee affecting Hendersonville's shoreline and lake area. And I propose to amend the number of membership from 12 back to, I think it was 5. And now that I looked at the number of people who are very interested in being on this committee, it was quite the list. I met with the mayor because I was trying not to pull from the same people he was discussing for his mayoral candidates. And we came up with, let's amend it to 9. From, so 4 board members, 4 that would be voted on by the board, and 5 mayor candidates. And again, this new committee is not by ward. We have no ward constraints on it, and it could be anybody in the city. So,
Alderman Dixon, thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor of resolution?
not yet.
Are we good?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of resolution 2025-06, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Now we're on to other agenda items, reports, brief committee reports. Chairman Sassy, Finance Committee.
We did not have a Finance Committee meeting today.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Sassy. Chairman Skidmore, Public Works Committee.
No report.
Thank you. Jesse, our Bowman report.
That's my vice mayor
Ready?
Well, we had great weather today. It's nice to see a change of season starting. But I do want to give a shout out to both Parks and Public Works. You know, when we had all the snow and the rain, the new snow plow equipment worked very well. Those guys worked throughout the night, I think a couple nights, to put salt out on the roads in front of the garbage trucks as well, so garbage could get collected. Parks obviously had their facilities flooded again, so they had to work hard to get that back up and open. We will probably be having Mary's Magical Place open tomorrow, at least the majority of it. So just a shout out to Parks and Public Works. And we just don't get the calls about flooding anymore now that Trace and the guys have worked so hard all these years, last couple of years, really completing these stormwater projects. And if you look on page 42 of the report, it shows that we've completed 17 of the 23 that are on schedule for this year. So they're just continuing to do a good job of knocking that out. We have a dedication Wednesday the 26th, so that's tomorrow at 4 o'clock at the Saunders Ferry Greenway. This is the Piper Elliott Bench dedication. Parks is going to be heading that up, so that'll be at 4 o'clock tomorrow. And then fiscal year 26 budget is kicking off March 18th at 6 o'clock here at City Hall. And the focus for that first meeting will be on revenue projections. If you were here last year, we focus really just on how we come up with revenues, the assumptions that we make. So we just do it into manageable pieces. The next meeting that we have on a budget workshop will tackle the expenses, but we're going to talk about just revenues primarily for that meeting. And then we have the presentation on impact fees. We're scheduling that right now. That'll probably be sometime end of March or beginning of April, so we should be, I think, probably versed in that by the time the fiscal year 26 budget comes up. And then an update on Bradford Berry. We have completed the soil sampling at that location, so we had to run some additional lab tests, so those are underway, but we should have a final report for the condition of the soil over there, which is the phase 2 report that's been underway. So once that comes back in, we'll reach out to GE and we'll talk about how we remove the deed restrictions on that property. So, so far so good on that report. And then I wanted to give a shout out also to firefighter Captain Andy Cook. There's a picture, Jason, I don't know if you can pull it up. I just did a JPEG that I put in the file of the dryer. So it's the clothes dryer, the gear clothes dryer that he built. And this is something that our firefighter Andy Cook built at all the stations. So you can put your gear over that, and there's holes that are in that PVC, and then the blower blows through there, and it kind of dries the equipment out. And so we do an employee of the month, and each kind of department gets one for the quarter. So Andy saved us a lot of money by building this in-house, so he was the employee of the quarter. So really good job by our fire department there and Andy Cook. And then as far as the BOMA report goes, during the last meeting, or the meeting before that, we discussed the PIP fund and having that information in the report. So now that has been added. That's on page 35 and 36. And you can also find it on the city's website. So if you go under the Finance tab on our website, you can find this information as well. And Casey and Tamara keep it live and running. So that's in here now. And that concludes my report, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Jesse. Any hold on. Alderman Collins.
Sorry, I hate to be that person. I meant to email this to you earlier, but Mary's Magical Place experienced some flooding. Even though we just did all that flood remediation and spent all that money, what happened?
It's in a flood zone, so every time it floods, I mean, we're going to have some damage there. Luckily, last time when we did some concrete repairs there, they did the footers on the concrete curb deeper, so we had to swap out concrete curbs last time. They held this time, but there was still damage there, so Parks has had to work overtime to clean all that up. But every time a storm comes, we have so many of our parks are in a flood zone.
Is there anything further we can do to protect Mary's Magical Place?
Well, we can build our parks outside of flood zones. That's
Yeah,
the
that'd be
best.
great.
That's the best way to tackle it.
That's one of our more recent mistakes. Okay, thank you.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Brief question. Thank you for the report on page 35, the PIP report. In looking at the expenditures and budget amounts, Jesse, we've got a long way to go on paving. Can you assure us that we're going to pave all of the streets in this fiscal year that we budgeted?
Yes, sir. That's our goal. We're about 50% right now. Total for paving for the year. Now, how it got split up, because we started at one end of the city and we worked our way, a lot of that money got used out of what we typically use, not out of the PIT fund, but we are scheduled to complete. We're on the 50% mark.
Yeah.
We're not 50% in the PIT fund yet, but we're hitting the mark.
Thank you. That's all.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Skidmore, you haven't said much tonight. Would you like to make a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
We have a second from Alderman Martin. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you all. Have a good night.